Okay. Awesome. Great. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here today for our day 2 of Women in STEM Breaking Barriers. And I get to introduce our speaker for this morning, Robin Thorne. Robin has made some outstanding achievements in her profession since receiving her Bachelor of Science degree in Chemical Engineering from Drexel University. Currently, she serves as the Chief Executive Officer of CTI Environmental, an environmental construction and safety consulting firm that she founded in 2009. In addition to her professional accomplishments, Robin is currently active in her community and served on multiple safety, community, and sustainability committees and commissions. Recently, Robin launched an initiative called Demo Chicks, an organization that introduces young girls to the fields of engineering and construction and empowers and uplifts those currently working in those fields. To share more about her journey in STEM and forging your own path, it's my pleasure to introduce Robin Thorne.
Good morning, everyone. Jean, I may need me know if you can hear me and what's happening. So I'm actually on the screen. Okay, this is a wonderful platform. Jean has given me a thumbs up, telling me that my PowerPoint is showing. Okay, all right, good morning, everyone. Apologize for that awkward start. All these platforms are different. So, although we practice, sometimes things happen, but the idea is to keep it going. So Gina will be my conscience over there. I'll see her through the window. We're socially distanced safely, and she'll let me know if I fall off screen or if anything happens. But thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate being here. As they shared, my name is Robin Thorne, and I have the great topic and a huge responsibility to talk about forging my own path. And this is the perfect topic for me, just based on my life experience. When I think of forging a path, this quote comes to mind: "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." And when I think about a path and I think about leaving a trail, I think about those people who came before us, right? I think about the hidden figures, those 3 African-American women who in the 60s, they're mathematicians, they were known as human computers, right? We all remember the movie and the book, but just imagine the choices those women made at that time when it wasn't popular. I think about Dr. Lynn Shaw, who's someone we had an opportunity to interview last year. She's worked as a miner, steel worker, longshore worker, and journey level electrician. She's the first woman to teach in the electrical apprenticeship program in Los Angeles. And Dr. Shaw is someone who saw a need and took the lead. In the 80s, when she was frustrated with being the only woman on construction job sites, she founded Winter. And Winter still exists today. And they have training programs introducing girls to the trades. And then I also think about the people who came alongside me, who were trailblazers alongside me. My friend, Melissa Joyner, I attended Drexel University, and Melissa graduated with a degree in chemical engineering as well. And after working for a while in the field, she pursued her MBA. So here she's a chemical engineer with the MBA. And after 10 years of working in the field, guess what she did? She chose another path. She decided she wanted to go after a lifelong desire. She went to cosmetology school. Can you believe that? This is an engineer with an MBA, and she went to cosmetology school. And yes, she is a diva. Look at her. So now she has her own salon in Voorhees, New Jersey, and she specializes in hair replacement therapy. And she jokes and says, well, if it fails, I can always go back to engineering. But she creates her own special solution. She has hair growth treatments and so on and so forth. Can you imagine what people said to Melissa when she said, well, I'm going to go to cosmetology school? They probably said, well, you're an engineer. What are you doing? You have an MBA. But she followed the path that she chose, and she's very successful. So when you graduate from school, yes, we want to work in our majors, but you never know what opportunities will be presented to you. And when you choose one path, you don't have to stay on that path forever, right? There's a season for everything. And so her season ended to be an engineer. And so she is now a beautician. Really proud of her. So it's far better to live your own path imperfectly than to live another's perfectly. And I think about my friend Shay. Now, Shay, too, chemical engineering degree from Drexel University, and Shay still works for the company she started working with after college. So we all have different paths. There's no right or wrong. It's just what's right for you. And I asked Shay, I told Shay I was speaking today, and I said, what would you say to the participants in the conference? And she says, no matter how hard things get, don't give up. All your struggles and hard work will pay off. She struggled to get through college. We all struggled to get through chemical engineering, but we never gave up because we knew we wanted to be engineers. So no matter what obstacles came our way, we never gave up. And then I think of those people who are coming behind me, right? So just like I'm standing on the shoulders of those that came before me, I think about those people who are coming after me. Like Ariel, she is in your midst today, right? She's at UCLA. She's a graduate student. She is a superstar, excuse me, and I'm really proud of her. And then I think about those who are even coming after Ariel, right? So you're going to learn about the nonprofit that I launched, and these are future demo chicks. This is our future. So when you think about a path, like there's many, many different paths. So I'm going to ask you a question. Do you choose your path, or does your path choose you? And I'd like to say, I can answer that question, but I'm going to need your help. Because at the end of this presentation, I'm going to ask you, I have two paths. Are there two paths? I guess the CEO path and the nonprofit path, or is that one solid path? So as I go through this journey and share with you, that's something that we can discuss. This is a fact. There's about 30 million small businesses in the US, and 11.6 million of those businesses are owned by women. Look at the power behind this. We employ, and I'm glad to say that I'm a part of that statistic. So we employ nearly 9 million people, and we generate $1.7 trillion in sales. That is amazing, and I'm happy to be a part of that team. And I'm sure some of you have heard this stat. What percentage of small businesses fail? 50%. Well, we're not going to focus on the cup being half empty. We're going to look at small business survival rates. That's what I like to see, like who's doing well. And I'm happy to share that after being in business for 12 years, we're still thriving. Okay, so who is Rob and this person talking to you early this morning? I'm the Chief Executive Officer of CTI Environmental. I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia. My core competency, what I do very well, is regulatory compliance. Been doing that for over 20 years. I'm also a general engineering contractor. And CTI have 7 employees. And last year we generated more than $1 million in revenues. But I don't do it alone. I have a team. And these are just a few of my team members. There's others, and they help me to be successful because it's not just about me. It's about all of us working together. And what does this team do? So I'm not going to bore you with a lot of this, but I want to at least let you know what it is that we do on a daily basis. As regulatory compliance experts, we're responsible for assisting companies. We keep them out of trouble. So if you are a company, whether you're a manufacturing, educational institution, municipality, and you have employees who work for you, if those employees get injured and seriously injured, you can be held liable if you don't have the proper safety programs in place. So Cal OSHA requires you to have certain programs in place. And if you have chemicals on site and you pollute the environment, you can be fined. So what we do, we allow you to continue to focus on your business, making your widgets, and we make sure that you're in compliance with all these regulations. So we're experts in knowing what you can and can't do and how to do it so that you can continue to do your business. So that's what we do 70% of the time. And then the other percentage of the time, we knock buildings down. So we have a demolition, as a general contractor, we're able to do demolition and lead and asbestos abatement. And who do we do it for? We have a host of clients in the public industry, private, federal government, schools, private individuals. We don't do a whole lot with residential, but we may do a mold survey on occasion if asked. Okay, so any given day, this is what you'll see. If you hang out with us at a job site. So that's one of our cool projects. There's another one, maybe I'll share it later because it'll take me away off to YouTube and then I'll have to get back and that's complicated. Well, as a result of those types of opportunities that you just saw, I thought, I need to share this with others. You know, how can I get other women involved? That project we worked on, that was actually demolition of a building at March Air Force Base. There were 3 women on that project, which is good. That's good. But how can we get more? So I launched a nonprofit called Demo Chicks, where we introduce girls to non-traditional careers and we empower the women who are in those careers. This was a concept in 2018 after we demolished a federal prison in Boron, California. It's about 120 something structures. So that's when the concept was born. And we actually launched in 2019. We're a nonprofit organization. So we take donations and sponsorships and all that good stuff. We have 2 slogans. We empower, we enlighten, and we elevate. And then we also say we are demo chicks. We knock stuff down to build you up. And we actually have t-shirts available. And you can get either one of those slogans on the t-shirts. What do we do as demo chicks? We have a good time. This was our launch back in 2019. We had a backyard boogie. That's what we called it. In 2019, had a wonderful time. So we have parties, we give scholarships, and we celebrate women. And because of the pandemic, we were forced online. So we've actually been doing virtual programming since May of last year. As a matter of fact, I believe someone from UCLA Graduate School will be our speaker this month on April 25th, if I'm not mistaken, April 22nd. We will have a speaker to talk about astronomy. Last month, it was electrical engineering. And what we do is we actually walk the girls through experiments. So it's really exciting. So feel free to come and join us. And ideally, these are our programs. When we're able to, we'll go on locations where we'll do experiments with the girls, but now we're online. So we have a good time and we're making a difference. And why is this important? Because there's a wage gap. Like women make less than men for every dollar a man makes. And then Black women make even less, 81 cents for every dollar that a paid, 81 cents for every dollar paid to a white non-Hispanic man working as a construction laborer. And then Hispanic women make 71.1% of a Hispanic man's earnings and 50.4% of a white male's earnings. So that's why we need to get more women involved in this industry so that they can make more money. All right, so this is why we're all here, right? We talk about forging my own path. How did I get to become this CEO and this nonprofit founder? And remember, I want you to let me know, did I choose my path or did my path choose me? So because of my environmental firm and my love for the environment, I like to liken my story to that of a plant, like something dealing with nature, right? So that's how I'm going to share my history and background with you. So what does a flower need in order to blossom? A flower needs good soil for its roots. It needs water, sunlight, and it needs fertilizer. It also needs to be well anchored and pruned in order to blossom from a seed to a bud to the beautiful creation that God intended it to be. So I'm going to take you through my journey and share with you what each one of those things were for me. So that good soil, the roots, my foundation, of course, with my parents. My mom always said to me, God bless the child who has his own. And she said another saying, but I don't know if I can say it on here, but it had something to do with a pot and a window, for those of you who are aware of that. And my mother also modeled kindness to me my whole life. She's the most selfless person that I know. And although my parents divorced when I was 13, and my mom was she was left to raise us on her own. So my mother, she started her career working for the railroad, but when my parents married and they started having children, she left her railroad job, which is something you don't do. So my mother is a woman who represents resilience, commitment, and dedication because she raised her 4 children on her own. My dad came back into my life later, but early on, I remember my father making me feel that I could go anywhere and do anything I wanted to do, that I was invincible. And so that's why I was able to move to California with my 11-year-old son, having no family here, from Philadelphia, clear across the country, and start a new life because of what he instilled in me. And a part of my foundation as well, this is my son. When I started at community college, because when I started college, I had been out of school for about 8 years. And I remember, having my son, and I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Get serious. And so I decided to go to school, and I had always liked math and science, but I had been out of school for 8 years. So it was a bit intimidating looking at any curriculum. And so I knew I liked math and science. So I thought either accounting or engineering. And so I took an accounting course and I was like, okay, that is not math. I don't know what it is, but it's not math. And then I took an algebra course and I liked the problem solving aspect of that. So engineering, that was the path I chose at that time. But remember, I'm out of school for 8 years. I have a 2-year-old son. So I started at the community college part-time. It took me 4 years and I obtained an engineering science degree with an emphasis in chemistry. And then I transferred to Drexel University, full-time, full force ahead. And it was just really amazing. And there was a lot of support at the community college. I currently have a scholarship. We've been awarding that scholarship for 18 years in my son's name at the community college of Philadelphia. Water, flowers need water to grow and blossom. And I say that the water for me was grace and mercy because I'm a woman of faith. And little did I know that's what got me through all these years, because as a business owner, it's very challenging. Like, being in business is not for the faint at heart. And I talk to people, I mean, I've been in business for 12 years. It took me 7 years to replace my income for my job. So that means for 7 years, there was no stability, but I had hope, right? I had determination. I just knew I was going to make it. And there were times where I would send my resume out. I was thinking, okay, this is, it's over. It's time to like have some stability. But I didn't want to give up. I felt like, you've worked really hard. I did a lot of networking. I knew I was doing all the things that was required of me. And I just wanted to keep going. So in 2017 is when we got our first 5-year contract, and I was able to pay myself a salary. And I've had a salary ever since. Every 2 weeks since then, I've received a paycheck. So that's a wonderful thing. But people ask me, they start a business after 3 months, they'll say, this person said they were going to do work with me and they're not working with me, or, wow, what did you do? What did you do until you made money? And I said, I wish I had taken better notes in my journal, because I don't know, like, for 7 years, I made money sporadically, but, I'd wake up and say, wait a minute, do we have any contracts? So that's when I realized it was my faith that kept me going, because if had it not been for that, I would have stopped. So pruning, I talked about the pruning process. Now, it's kind of interesting, because when I was looking for, I wanted to use a lot of images of women, but when I went online and I was looking for pruning images of women, they were all so pretty. It's like the women were just posing. And I said, no, I want this to look painful. So I found a visual with some dead branches, because that's what happens. The pruning process is taking away the old dead branches so that you can grow. You want to get rid of dead weight. So what is that in your life, right? So pruning toxic people. You want to monitor the people that you're around. I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, you look at the 5 people that are around you and you look at their revenues, and that's probably where you're going to be. So if you're around people who, you're depending on where you are in life, right? So if you're in college, you might have work study, you might have an internship or a part-time job. But when you think about where you're going, as you graduate, as you start working, as you get further along in your career, you just want to consider the people that you're around. Stay away from toxic people, because they are like weights. You ever around a person, when you leave that person, you're like, you drained and you didn't do anything physical, like it's an emotional drain. You want to stay away from bad habits. If you have some bad habits, like if you're time challenged or have some other habits that aren't serving you, get rid of them. Slackers, people who aren't going anywhere. It's okay, to hang out with them, but keep it to a minimum, right? Because you don't want them to pull you down. Stay away from drama. I think this is Gina's favorite, no more drama. Because in school, or if you're new in your career, you need all your energy to go towards something positive, right? The only drama you need is if you're a theater major and you're on the stage. Other than that, stay away from it. You don't need it. And sometimes pruning can be a job. I share with people sometimes, and they're really shocked, because they say, oh, Robin, you're successful, you have your own business. And they say, well, that's wonderful, that you left corporate America and you launched your business. And I say, well, I didn't leave corporate America. Corporate America got rid of me. Yes, I was actually fired in 2011 from my job. But guess what? That was part of the pruning process. I just didn't know it at that time. So when I started the company, I actually was working. I had a partner, but I was very careful to make sure that we didn't pursue the same opportunity. So there was really no conflict of interest. I was doing the right thing. But my job decided, I guess my marketing was so good, the website, and they decided that I could not work for them and have a business. So they decided to let me go. And yes, it crushed my ego, you know. I mean, it was 2011, you know, big time chemical engineer, moved to California, fired. Like that was the, the headline. No, it didn't really make the paper, but in my mind, that was the headline. So, but I said, oh, that's a sign. I'm supposed to be doing this on my own, right? So what path did I choose? Instead of finding another job, I chose to continue to pursue the business. And so looking back, that was part of the pruning process because I would have never left my job. I mean, who's going to leave some stability in order to go into an unknown area? But it was a good situation. I'm glad it happened. And it's funny because a month later, the company reached out to me and asked me to partner with them on a proposal because I was doing a lot of emergency planning for them at the time, and they were pursuing an opportunity. And so I knew I was a good employee. So that was part of my pruning process. So don't be afraid to let go. And when things happen, I hope you don't get fired from a job, but when things happen that you don't expect, keep going. You know, you might feel it for a while. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to kind of mope too, because I still have moments when I mope. I was sharing with my staff the other day. I had a moment where I want to just ball up and say, why do I do this? But I know I got to keep going. So it's okay to have those moments. Feel free to express yourself. Okay, sunlight. What does sunlight represent? Okay, sunlight for me, flowers need sunshine. And for me, the sunshine were words of wisdom that soaked in over the years. Flowers produce seeds and those seeds blossom. So there's a season to till, and that's when I studied. And there's a season to blossom, and that's when I graduated and found my very first job in my new professional career. And then there's a season to soar, and that's when I found my business and started working, because when you have a business, your earning potential is limitless. It's important to remain coachable, right? Because we don't know it all. You know, you figured if I thought I knew it all when you're a little kid, you think you know a lot, right? And then you become a teenager, and then, so we never learn it all. I mean, even at this stage of life, there's always something to learn. So always remain coachable and be open to new ideas. You know, be open to, especially in this day and age, because of technology, there's, a lot of things are changing. And I know some of us, even with technology, like I still have a desktop. And I know some of you said, well, what's wrong with having a desktop? Well, my IT person wants me to have a laptop. He wants all laptops, no desktop. But I'm open to the new idea in case he's listening. But, and just say yes to opportunities. Like when I moved from Philadelphia, when I had an opportunity to come to California, I said yes, right? When I had a chance to speak to all of you, I said yes. So saying yes, when you say yes, magic happens. So be open to saying yes and be flexible. I mean, sometimes we can be very rigid, and just with my training, like I was kind of rigid. I had tunnel vision, and my mom used to say to me, it's not always black and white. There's some gray. And so remember the gray, right? Remember to have some flexibility. And then this is one of my favorites, 15 and 15. If I could see the chat, I would ask you to guess what that means. But 15 and 15 means find someone to take 15 minutes to tell you what they learned in 15 years. And that's been some valuable experience for me, invaluable experience when I'm talking with someone, especially in business, being in the construction industry. Now, I say that, but when people say, oh, you're in the construction industry, I always say, no, I'm not, because I'm a general engineering contractor. So they automatically think that we build houses or we build buildings or we do renovations. And we don't. As a general engineering contractor, we have an A license with a hazard endorsement. We knock stuff down and we do lead and asbestos abatement. But we are in the construction industry because we work on construction projects. We do construction management, our safety services. So we are in the construction industry, but I just resisted that for the longest. No, we're not. But especially in this industry where there are a lot of obstacles and pitfalls, it's good to learn from other people's mistakes, right? You don't always have to make your own. So when you have that person who's willing to sit down with you and share with you what they learned, definitely take heed and listen. So what's next? So we had the water, the sunlight, we've been pruned. So what is next? Fertilizer. Plants need fertilizer and cultivation. So as we grow and blossom, we lose the stability and comfort we were oh so familiar with as a bud. This is where the support of mentors and people can help you get through and back on track. Mentorship is so important. And I have so many mentors, they may not even know they're my mentor. I refer to them as mentors. They're people that I ask questions. There's different types of mentoring relationships. They can be formal or they can be informal. I'm trying to think if I ever had a truly formal. The only formal mentoring relationship I have is through the SBA. There's something called mentor protege, where a larger firm can mentor a smaller firm. And that way we can pursue bigger projects. So we can combine our teams, because as a small business, you always want to appear bigger, right? So when I'm out, I learned early on to say we. I would always say we. And the people would know who knew me when it was just me. They were like, who are you talking to? Who's we? I said, it's just, you give the impression that you're bigger. You're not really telling a story. It's just how you're posturing, how you position yourself. So you say, we appreciate, we did this, or we're going to do that. But it was always funny, especially my family. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's just you. But through the SBA, so you want to appear bigger than what you are, but the SBA gives you permission to say, I'm small and they're helping me. So that's the only formal mentoring relationship I have. But the other people are just people who I talk to. I have a person who's very close to me. Sometimes the decisions that I have to make are tough and I don't want to make them. And I can call her and say, I have to make this decision and I don't want to do it. And she'll listen to me. And then she'll say, well, you can always go get a job. And it's like, oh, really? So, but, I still need to talk. But I always know she's going to say that, but she still listens to me. And then there are other people just in different areas, if I want to pursue a different area, or there are people who may, work with me. I just spoke with someone the other day and I talked about hiring a salesperson, and he said, we'll work with that person for you. We'll meet with them weekly for the next 2 months. So there's all types of opportunities and people will help. You just have to ask them, don't be afraid. What's the worst they can say? I remember when I started my career and I wanted some time off and I was nervous. I'm new, but I was going to a wedding or something. And my boss told me, never be afraid to ask for something that you need. What's the worst I can say? No. And that's how I feel. That's why I tell my staff. We spend so much of our time at work. I want people to be able to live their lives. You have a family, if there's, graduation, a kid's play, or there's something you need to do with your family, by all means, spend the time with your family, because you only live one life and you only get one opportunity to raise your kids. So I think that we need to be able to be balanced. And that's part of being anchored. I didn't mention that, but you want to have balance in your life. Because people say to me all the time, oh, you own your own business, you work all the time. I work a lot, but I don't work all the time. I listen to my body and my mental well-being. If I'm really stressed out, but something has to get done, I get it done. But I know how to take a day off. I know how to go to a spa and sit and just look at the ocean. I know how to disappear, and I know how to not answer my phone. That's what voicemail is for, right? We're so quick to, oh, where's the phone? It's ringing. Well, it'll go to voicemail. So I definitely know how to take care of myself. Oh, and so what's next? What's next? Oh, and your mentors, classmates, and parents, right? Because you have those classmates who will say to you, aren't you supposed to be studying? We have a test tomorrow. Like, you want people like that in your life. And you want girlfriends who look out for your well-being. I mean, if you're dating the wrong person, right? You want friends who will support you, but you also want friends who will call you out, you know? Like, why do you let him talk to you that way? Or why do you let him treat you that way? So you want those kinds of friends too. And then your parents are people who love you and support you. And I know there's a transitional period. I think it happens in your early teens where you think your parents don't know anything, and then at some point you realize they know a lot. So whatever stage you're at with your parents, they're wonderful people. And if you're one of those individuals, because I had classmates who maybe didn't have good relationships with their parents, but that's no excuse, because there are other people, right, who you can reach out to support you. You can borrow your friends' parents, right? Because I know I have friends who would come to my mom because they couldn't go to their own parents. What else do I have for you? Okay. Oh, and so I know I need to wind down because there may be questions. An hour is a long time to talk, but I want to share with you, just with all that we're doing, I want to share with you one of our recent accomplishments I'm excited about, because last week we were officially notified that we were awarded, or we won, an $8 million contract at Camp Pendleton. And we're so excited about that because our first presentation with them was in June of 2018. So when you're in business, it's something called cash flow. It's something called the sales cycle. So just think about it. My first presentation with Camp Pendleton was June of 2018. And almost 3 years later, we have an $8 million contract over 5 years. Was it worth it? Of course. But that just, if I was teaching a business class, I would talk to you about having like a pipeline, right? You can't just focus on one customer. And people come to me with that too, like, oh my God, this person said they were going to do business with me and then they're not, so I'm going to fold. Well, you can't just rely on one person, because unfortunately, people don't always do what they say they're going to do. I mean, if they're working for a company, it's not up to them. Like, budgets change. I've had situations where I was this close to landing a deal, and then that person left the company, so you just can't rely on one person. So yes, but I wanted to share this with you because it's exciting. We're excited. And also, another funny thing too, you say, oh, I have an $8 million contract. Okay, so I don't have $1 million in a bank, right? Because people think a multi-million-dollar contract makes you a millionaire. No, you have to do the work, you bill it, and you don't bill it all at once. It's over 5 years. But we are still excited. So this is another quote I thought was great. If you always do what is easy and choose the path of least resistance, you never step outside your comfort zone. Great things don't come from comfort zones. Okay, so I'm going to summarize by saying that my road to CEO wasn't all roses and daisies. There were some thorns, weeds, and blight along the way, but with strong and deep roots, a little bit of water, some sunshine, and fertilizer, I stand before you, or I'm on the Zoom before you. As a business owner, one of those 30 million women, when I began the journey, the odds weren't in my favor. I was a single parent from a broken home. But my life is really a testament of what you can accomplish when you put one foot in front of another on a consistent basis, and always follow your dreams and listen to your heart. Because if you follow your dreams and you listen to your heart, your garden will be full and rich. So with that, I'll ask you, did I choose my path, or did my path choose me?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin. That was really fantastic. We're getting lots of comments in the chat. Love that thought. Really enthusiastic. So I guess, yeah, now is the time that we take any questions. So people can put them in the chat or in the Q&A on the side, and I will be watching both of those and monitoring. I guess to start, I have a question.
Well, I have a question before you have a question. So what should I be seeing now? Because I see a white screen. Should I see my face or?
Yeah, so I think you should be able to go back to the Hopin page and you should see both of us.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. This is kind of awkward. After all that CEO nonprofit founder, I can't even get back to the backstage. Okay. Well, I don't know where it is, but let's go.
Yeah, sounds good. So the theme of this conference has been breaking barriers, which I think is really kind of fitting for you, given your past, because you've obviously broken a ton of kind of literal barriers being in demolition and kind of more metaphorical barriers. And so I was kind of wondering, like, how did you push through some of those barriers? And you kind of touched on that in your talk, but I was hoping you could elaborate just a little bit.
Well, I want to say, I just had to, like, I don't know. I think I was so focused on my goal that the barriers and obstacles didn't deter me. Right. So, it's like because I think about that and I think back to school. That's when I was the most focused, right? Because you have a curriculum, in order for me to get this degree, I have to do, take these classes in this semester, and you're just so focused, right? Because you know the goal. So I think for me, I always had my eye on the prize. So those things that were happening on the side, I mean, that was just par for the course. It just didn't really impact me enough to, make me look left or right. I just was always really focused.
Awesome. So we have a question from the chat that says, you sound so confident and reassured about yourself. How do you develop that, starting your own company and with everything that you've done?
Well, by getting beat down, but not letting it keep you down, because it took a while. I mean, just imagine in the beginning, well, having that engineering degree helped, right? Because that impresses people. I mean, people are like, I had to learn to embrace that, right? My friends would tell me, girl, you need to learn how to brag, because I'm a very humble person, right? I'm not, I'm a chemical engineer. But I learned to embrace that. That's an accomplishment, right? And as I talk to people, so other people help build me up, right? Because as I talk to people, they say, what, you were a single parent? Think, you were an engineer, your dad was an engineer, you came from a family of engineers. No, none of that. So as I talk to people and they're like, oh my gosh, you did what? It made me realize, wow, I really accomplished something. And then when I first started the business and I would go to meetings, I didn't always feel empowered. Sometimes I'd be the only woman there, sometimes the only woman of color. But even then, because they were figuring, they're just bringing her so they can get the special treatment or the set aside. And they're like, well, no, she's the engineer. So it took years of me hearing that for me to say, oh yeah, that's right. And believe it or not, just recently, as we started doing all these Zooms, me seeing myself talk on the camera, I'm like, you are having that conversation. Yes, you're having multi-million-dollar conversations. That's you. I mean, that even increased my confidence even more. In the last year, I've really started to own all of this. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So one more question, I guess, that I have, and see if anyone has more in the Q&A session. But you have mentioned a couple of times how kind of the vision at the end has kind of kept you going through a lot of this and through a lot of these barriers. Was that something that you kind of saw through examples or role models, or was it just kind of this dream that you had generated for yourself and held on to?
When I look at my parents, I didn't realize. I mean, it was instilled in me. My father passed in 2016, and I remember we were going through his papers. He had so many papers. He had a lot of rejection letters, like from banks, saying no, and so he would just try another one, try another one. I mean, that's kind of very simple. But my dad didn't take no for an answer. He was in Delaware, and he used to wear his CTI shirt, and he had CTI business cards, and I was like, what is he doing? And my dad would he'd be not on the street, like walking the street, but he'd meet someone he thought that I could do business with. Now I'm in California, he's in Delaware, and he put them on the phone with me. And I'm thinking they're probably like, this crazy old man, who's he talking about? And then I get on the phone and they were like, wow, this is legitimate. And I was thinking, kind of embarrassed, but I was like, wait a minute, he might actually get me a deal in Delaware, And so I went to visit him, and he said, man, there's this lab around the corner. If the guy hadn't told me to stop coming, I would take you there. So I was like, man, that's probably where I get it from, because he just was just determined, relentless, He was like, if I can find a way to get back to that lab, the guy told me no. So that means, how many times did my dad go to that man's lab for the man to say, stop coming back here? So I may not have been that bold and aggressive, but that was still instilled in me, like that relentlessness and just keep going, keep going, keep going.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's all sorry, I'm getting a notification. All right, so we have another question from the chat is, when would you say is the best time to plan to have and raise kids? Would it be early in a career or once you're settled? Sometimes I worry about this, especially if I don't have sufficient support to help.
All right, so there's that path, right? So you have to choose. So I don't think, okay, we could say, God, there's really no good time. Like, to have kids, there is no good time, because it's always going to be a challenge in work. Of course, the idea is to get married, have some stability in your life, be financially stable. But even being in that situation, just raising kids is a challenge in itself. So the ideal situation is like the white picket fence, but I don't know what percentage of the world that's reality for. So what I will say to you is, whatever situation you find yourself in, I mean, because we make plans, right? But we don't have control over the direction of those plans or how well they work out. But whatever situation you find yourself in, there's always support, right? So if you are a new couple, like my niece, she's a newlywed. I think they had their first child after, she's older, she's like 30. They had their first child a year after getting married. I mean, things are fine. And then you might have someone else who has their first child at like 23 and they're fine. So sorry, I can't give you a better answer, but I just think that whatever your situation is, you make you make the most of it and you adjust accordingly.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that answer. And I think that's actually a really great note to end on. So we'll say thank you so much to Robin Thorne for that fantastic talk. And I encourage everyone to get up, stretch, get some water, maybe go to the bathroom, and then come back to the main stage for a talk at 10 o'clock by Tina Hambook. I might have said her last name wrong, but who will talk about personal and professional priorities as a woman. And so I think that kind of ties very nicely into that last question.
Well, can I ask a question before we go?
Yes.
Because I always forget to do this. And this is an opportunity for us to get more followers. So I will ask everyone to follow us on IG. And if I don't do this, Hannah's going to get me. So Demo Chicks is DEMOCHICKS. So if you go on IG and follow us, For the older folks who are on Facebook, follow us, but please, please, please follow us, Demo Chicks. And you can also follow my company, CTI Enviro, CTIENVIRO, but especially Demo Chicks. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, and I see Sarah, one of our organizers, has put that in the chat, so everyone can go find those and follow them. And thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Stop the broadcast.